In the beginning of the 20th century, record companies marketed products specifically to the African American community under the title race records. This was not a derogatory term. It was a common identifier for African Americans at the time. In 1949, Billboard music journalist Jerry Wexler coined a new term for the music, rhythm and blues. Wexler went on to work with the independent label Atlantic Records in New York, helping to record and promote some of the biggest names in American music, including Ray Charles and Aretha Franklin. In this presentation, we'll listen to and learn to distinguish some of the performers and styles of race music and rhythm and blues. These are some of the race music labels that promoted black artists to black listeners. Major labels made good money with this segment of the market, especially as white listeners started to pay attention to the blues, gospel, jazz, and comedy albums produced by the race labels. One of the most popular styles in race records was classic blues. Classic blues differed from country blues by being more sophisticated, urban, and using a wider range of instruments. You can hear piano and other instruments commonly heard in jazz music. Also, the singing style would use the blue notes and tones of country blues singers. But classic blues singers tended to sound more like the trained voices of Tin Pan Alley or Broadway performers. Some of the most popular classic blues singers were Roberta Hunter, Ethel Waters, Ma Rainey, and Bessie Smith, who performed the blues as nightclub singers. Let's listen to Bessie Smith sing St. Louis Blues, with Louis Armstrong accompanying. The song was written by W.C. Handy, who heard a blues performer at a train station and was intrigued by the sound. Even though Handy wasn't particularly fond of the country blues sound, he is called the father of the blues, not because he invented the style, but because he notated and published it in sheet music form. As you listen, notice the AAB form of the verses, the blue notes, the flattened pitches that occur every once in a while to give it that bluesy feel and character. I've indicated some of them in the first verse. Also, listen for the tone of Smith's voice, the urban, sophisticated character of it, and the incorporation of jazz instruments through Louis Armstrong, who is participating in a call and response pattern. Now let's turn our attention to the wide range of styles that fall under the heading of race and rhythm and blues. As race music evolved in the first half of the 20th century, there was an increasingly urban style, faster tempos, and rhythmic patterns influenced by jazz and big band music. I want to run through several of the other styles that are considered race or rhythm and blues, so that by the end of this review, you're able to distinguish quite easily between them yourself. We'll start with the blues crooners. Crooning is a style of singing that is quiet and intimate, sentimental. This style of singing was made possible by the technological advances of microphones. A crooner produced a sound that made the listener feel like the singer was whispering in their ear, a very intimate experience. As an example, let's listen to Leroy Carr sing Prison Bound Blues. Though his crooning is not as dramatic as Bing Crosby's Tin Pan Alley sound, you can hear some vibrato and smoothness in Carr's vocals that you won't find in country blues. In the 1940s and 50s, many Delta blues players who moved to big cities started to play electric guitars. The amplification helped these players project their sound above the noise of crowded clubs and elevated trains in the big cities. Muddy Waters developed the electric blues sound in Chicago on Chess Records, and his sense of masculinity and brash sexuality was hugely influential on the young Rolling Stones in England. Howlin' Wolf was a Sun Records star in Memphis, Tennessee, that also recorded for Chess Records in Chicago, where he relocated and formed a band. Wolf, who learned to play blues guitar from Charlie Patton, had an astoundingly unique and powerful singing voice. Other great electric blues artists include B.B. King, another Sun Records star, Albert King, and Buddy Guy, a Chess Records artist. John Lee Hooker learned the Delta blues style in Mississippi and Memphis and moved to Detroit, where his electric blues became very popular. Boogie woogie was a style that influenced big band jazz, leading to the rhythmic patterns of early rock and roll. The style developed in Texas as wild dance music played by the piano. The boogie woogie rhythm features a repeated pattern in the left hand as the right hand plays off the bass riff. The focus on the music is much more about rhythm than melody, which is typically the case with dance music. Early notable performers of boogie woogie include Pinetop Smith, Jimmy Blythe, and Albert Ammons. Jump blues is a style that really ushers in the rhythm and blues genre. Jump was influenced by the big band jazz era, which is obvious from the use of horns and boogie woogie patterns in the bass playing. Jump blues is also a stepping stone to early rock and roll. The most popular and influential of the jump blues performers is Louis Jordan. He had a huge influence on artists like Little Richard, James Brown, and Prince. His songs often told stories, often humorous, and peppered with sexual innuendo. This video of Louis Jordan's performance of Caledonia, one of his most popular hits, shows his comedic entertainment style, certainly drawn from the minstrel shows of past eras. You can also see how Jordan plays the role of band leader in the big band jazz tradition. Also, pay attention to the repeating rhythm in the bass, clearly borrowed from boogie woogie. The final style we'll look at under the rhythm and blues category is doo-wop. Doo-wop is made up of several vocalists producing rhythmic and melodic sounds with their voices, as well as intricate harmonies. Many of the big doo-wop groups came from the East Coast cities like Philadelphia, Baltimore, Newark, and New York City. Have Mercy Baby is an early example of doo-wop. You can hear the gospel influences and the way the vocals are used rhythmically as well as melodically to fill in the spaces and drive the music forward.